Hello, Priestess Mama, and welcome to the Priestess of Motherhood podcast. My name is Dania Foster. I am a bachelor qualified naturopath and an energetics therapist. So, today I'm wanting to talk to you about the generational lineage healing that breaks that maternal rage cycle. So this is a really good episode, considering it is Mother's Day weekend this weekend, and this is kind of circling for a lot of women that I know, including myself. So the thing to realize is that if you are feeling any type of rage or irritability or frustrations, just that underlying moodiness, this rage hasn't started with you. We've got some generational patterns and some imprinting that is contributing through your lineage, but you are the one that gets to take responsibility and have the opportunity to change that. Okay, so let's talk about that, break it all down. So what is maternal rage? Obviously, it is when you are feeling angry. You may be acting on it, you may not be acting on it. It may be bubbling under the surface, but it comes out in those bursts of snapping, moments when you find yourself using tactics that perhaps were used on you when you were a child or when you were growing up, and you are beating yourself up for using them, but they've just blurted out of your mouth without you realizing, because you've been under pressure. You've that pressure of holding in rage for a really long time, or irritation. Anything that's that feeling that you've been told you're not allowed to feel. So we repress and we hold on to it until we can't hold it anymore, and that pressure explodes. So these are often coming in the moments that no one sees. So this could be at home in the kitchen, this could be in the car, just the moments that you get when it's just by yourself, or you and your kids, or you and your nuclear family unit. These are the moments that nobody else sees, and where we sort of unleash these shadow elements to ourselves. And you'll know what I mean when I say that, they've happened before. This is the generational lineage, is that you experience these things growing up and you swore to yourself that it was going to be different. And then you hold the guilt because you see it come out in these unexpected moments, and you're thinking, like, fuck, like I swore I wasn't going to do this. And here I am saying these same things that I said. And I can tell you that personal stories, like let's go there, is that Mother's Day weekend, and my husband's taking the kids out, and they don't want to do anything that I want to do. I wanted to go for a walk. I wanted to go for a drive to this creek. I wanted to go explore. And they're like, oh, I don't want to go do this. And then the words came out of my mouth and I can't even remember what I said because I'm repressing it and trying to forget that I even did it. But I said something along the lines of, like, this is like the only chance that you get to like show me that you appreciate me. It was along these sort of lines, and you don't even want to do that. So just forget about it. We won't even have a Mother's Day. Those sort of lines. That's what comes out of my mouth when I'm thinking nobody cares. Nobody wants to celebrate me, all of these sort of things. And that spills over. And I said that because I was feeling hurt that somebody asked me, my husband asked me what I wanted to do. And I thought, oh, well, I don't want to be a burden. And these things that I want to do, they'll require a bit of driving. They require people to sit in the car when they don't want to. Um, Kids don't want to go for this walk. Hannah, he doesn't want to go for a walk. These are all things that I want to do. But, this is the one day a year where we get to do that. And when I express that, my want, my desire, I had that underlying, oh, but what if they don't want to do it? And then it was met not by my husband, and not by all my kids, but like for just one of my kids to say, I don't wanna. I was like, that was the breaking point for me to be like, well, fuck you then. Not that I said that, but that was my thought process. Well, like, oh, fuck you then. Like, I won't do anything, and I won't get to enjoy anything that I like to do, maybe until you've grown up, and then I can go and explore and do these things on my own when I don't have to, take a bunch of whinging kids with me. But it's so not supposed to be like that. So then I was like ruminating on the shame that I was shaming my own kids. Oh, and that's like triggering for my own childhood and stuff. I remember Mother's Day when I was a kid and growing up with a single mom, and she would be like, "This is the one day a year where it's supposed to be about me, and all you just want to do is fight." And I could just remember that feeling of being like, "Oh, we haven't done enough for her." And just the guilt and the shame that comes with that. And I don't want to pass these stories on, but also I want to be able to say what I want without feeling guilt for wanting or being a burden for having desire one day a year. So it's an interesting time of year. Um, so you know what that maternal rage feels like. You've experienced the snapping, the moodiness, the grumpiness, the yeller, whatever it is, however that rage comes out on you, because it can come out as a yeller. We often think of maternal rage as the yelling, but it can also be because it is an anxiety response, often it is a nervous system dysregulation. It can also come out as the shutting down and the dissociation, the freeze out. And this is something that I had to overcome within myself because that was the pattern that I had to break was the freeze out of not being spoken to or being ignored when things weren't going the way that my mum wanted them to go. She would go into a dissociation, and that's what I would tend to do when I was feeling overwhelmed in my motherhood. But having to communicate that has been such a challenge for me to say to my family that, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now, and I need to go and take some quiet time just for me to go and come back because I don't want them to feel like I'm ignoring them because they've done something wrong or that I'm angry at them because I didn't get that communication part when I was a kid. So I internalize that all within myself and have this inner dialogue that I'm constantly working to rewire that tells me that, hey, actually, you're not the burden, you're not the problem. It's not that everybody in the world hates you. It's just that other people are going through their own shit and need to do some of their own regulation sometimes. So me just communicating that to my kids and saying, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I need to go and take some time to just go and be alone for a moment and come back into my body. And that's just letting them know it's not about them, it's about me. And that's a part of breaking the cycle, really. That's what it's coming down to. It's just recognizing those parts within you. Awareness is one of the biggest first steps, and then being able to communicate what you need from that awareness. So, if you're experiencing snapping, if you're experiencing that burst of shame that come out of your mouth or the repeating of the stories or the sayings that got you when you were a kid, you're not alone. And this it didn't start with you, but your mum's doing the best that she did when she was raising you. She was going through her own stuff. She had her own stories from the way that she was raised. All of these different things are coming down this maternal lineage. And when we are doing our shadow work part of the healing that I do in the Priestess of Motherhood packages, what we are doing is recognizing, bringing that awareness to the surface, finding that forgiveness within our heart space, invoking the inner mother for who we needed from our inner child in that space, and being able to shift and rewire our inner dialogue so that we're not constantly hearing that mean voice in our head that's putting us down and telling us that we're the problem. Because you're not broken, you're just the result of generations of women who have been silenced, women who have been told they're not enough or not good enough or not doing enough or need to be more or different from who they are. And especially if we spoke about neurodivergent masking, chronic pain masking, everything like this into the mix last session. If we have those sort of issues underlying what's going on for us, then we've got even more pressure to meet expectations that are really, really hard for us to do. So you're not alone in any of this. There's no judgment at all if you have those moments of like we spoke about nervous system dysregulation. So that's going to come out in the flight response. That's the yeller, that's the snapping, that's the shaming, that's the guilting, like that's the attack. And then we've got the freeze response, where we are moving more into that dissociation, that freeze out, that ignoring, the silent treatment, all of those things like that. But we also have the flight response as well, which is where we are overcompensating and trying to keep up with everything and keep moving, ignoring the situation, trying to put on a happy face and pretend that nothing's going wrong and just keep moving. And that's a flight, is move away from the problem and just keep pretending. So all of those things are impacting and making you feel that underlying, it could be outright, or it could be that underlying burn of frustration and rage that's not being recognized. So when we realize that it's not just an issue that we're going through, we can start to unpack how it actually feels in our body and how we're actually experiencing that when we stop ignoring that it's a problem and start to unpack that. So we can start to think, okay, well, it starts to happen a bit more when I'm a bit overwhelmed, when I've got a lot on my plate. Maybe I've said yes to too many things that I didn't really want to say yes to. That's the people pleasing strain coming in. But maybe it's happening when I haven't had a lot of sleep. Maybe it's happening when I'm like a week out from my period being due and I'm premenstrual and I've got hormonal shifts happening that are not working to my best interest right now. What else could be happening is it could be that you are actually feeling really sluggish in your body because you haven't pooped in a few days and you feel really, really crap, like literally. And you just feel that, like, if we talk about the manifestations of emotions in our organs and systems, if your liver is sluggish, which leads to things like constipation, liver is an organ that, if it is not optimized, it's going to generate the emotion of anger. Okay. We've got worry and anxiety coming from our kidneys, yes, but we've got the anger is coming from that undernourished liver. So being able to support these systems to flow does help us to move out through our energy of emotion as well. So yeah, if we are constipated and blocked up through our digestive system, then it's gonna make us cranky bitches. Like that's just that's just how you feel. If you feel sluggish, if you feel like when you go to the toilet you're not completing your bowel movements, you're gonna start to feel a bit gross and in yourself and just irritable. That's just a natural flow-on effect from that. If your menstrual cycles are stuck in a fight or flight, if your nervous system is stuck in a fight or flight, your menstrual cycle is going to react by delaying ovulation or not ovulating at all. So therefore, your progesterone levels are going to be down, especially in comparison to your estrogen levels. So if you've got an imbalance between progesterone and estrogen, then you're not going to have that calming, restful hormone coming through for your premenstrual time, your progesterone, and therefore you're going to be feeling more of that premenstrual rage. There's a lot of imbalances that can flow through to your hormones. Remember, hormone imbalances are not root cause solutions. We've got to dig deeper and think, well, why are your hormones dysregulated? Why are they out of balance? And they are a sign for us to have a look a bit deeper. And your rage is just one of those red flags that says, pay attention to me. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I've got things that need to be expressed, but I'm holding on to that. So if we bring that back to the organ around rage as the liver, holding on, like your liver's job is detoxification. And if our body is holding on to too many toxins, whether that is through our digestive system not being able to optimally clear that, whether that's through our hormones recycling and not being able to fully detox and clear through those pathways, whether that is through different heavy metals coming into the mix, whether that is through toxic things that you are consuming through your mindset, your energy, your emotions, all of those things need to be considered and addressed through holistic care. And this is why we have these sessions that Take the time with you. None of these 15-minute GP appointments where they just look at what the symptoms are and prescribe you a pill to suppress it. No, we're digging deeper and we're thinking, where did this come from? Where can we get to the roots of this? Why are your hormones imbalanced that are causing this premenstrual rage? Why is your liver holding on to these toxins? Where are the toxins coming from? What are they happening in your lifestyle? Why isn't your body able to detox them? Are our pathways optimized? Does our body have everything it needs to be able to move through those detoxification pathways? And optimize that, giving your body what it needs so that its innate healing systems will work smoothly, and removing all of the barriers that get in the way of that happening for you. And they can be barriers of physiology, whether you're missing key nutrients, whether you're missing things like water, sleep, right, macronutrients from your food. It could be that you have got some toxins coming in from external places that we need to prevent that from impacting your life, whether it is the emotional stresses, whether it is the energetic imprints. And this is why I do energetic work alongside my physiological work for naturopathy, because a lot of the time we have energetic imprints. So what are these? These are the patterns that we live in. These are the stories that we tell ourselves. Okay, so we can look at things like epigenetics. Epigenetics is what we get passed down through our genetics. So this is where people say it ran in my family. So this could be things like hormones are a great way to talk about this. A lot of women that I talk about that have menstrual dysregulation in menstrual problems, whether that could be premenstrual rage, PMT, endometriosis, PCOS, any sort of heavy bleeding. A lot of the heavy bleeders that I do get, they've said like, oh, this is a problem my mum had, and my auntie had a hysterectomy, and my sister's had issues around this, and it's going down the maternal line. Is that all the women in my family have had problems premenstrually. It's just something that we have. And so this is where we can say that the genes are loading the gun, but your lifestyle and your energy and the life that you live pulls the trigger. That's what epigenetics is pretty much about in a nutshell. So what we can really do with that is we don't have to live based on what our genetics are telling us that we have to live. And this is the shadow work aspect of that, is breaking that pattern and saying, well, I'm choosing to do things differently. So looking at that, for example, the heavy bleeding, menstrual bleeds, and looking, well, what's contributing to that? It's not just a genetic imprint. Things in our lifestyle, things the way we live our life, our stress loads will pass down to contribute to these patterns. So if we can nurture ourselves through this space, if we can love ourselves through this and look at the underlying stories that we have been told about our bleed, look at the underlying stories that we've been told about rest, look at the underlying stories that we've been told about being a woman. All of these stories are contributing on an emotional and energetic level to the reason why your body is in a dysregulated fight or flight stage premenstrually and moving into that high cortisol that blocks your hormonal patterns and balance, and then blocks your gut. And all of these things flow on from your emotional and energetic stories that you're carrying. It leads you into that higher cortisol state of survival. So we've got to tell ourselves or retrain ourselves to know what it feels like to live in safety, to be comfortable in our bodies, to be comfortable with the new stories that we're writing for who we are and what we are living in our lives now, because we are breaking cycles. We are breaking cycles and we're doing things differently to how things were done in generations before us. We are living lives that aren't built off of people pleasing and being able to meet expectations in order to survive. We have built relationships built on connection, and that leads us to lean into safety. Okay, we're doing things differently. We've built slow lives, okay, that allow us to rest when we need to. Okay, so there is a big emotional inheritance of trauma, of stress, that especially comes down that maternal line. So one of the first sessions that I do in the Priestess of Motherhood mentorships is a generational lineage healing. It's like a Reiki healing infused like a guided meditation where we journey together through a space that travels back along that generational lineage and connects in with the stories, the energetic imprints that stand out for us, and think, oh, there's a knot of energy in this space. And we don't have to know who our ancestors were or their stories, their lives, or what happened to them. But we energetically feel into the lineage line and we see where there was energy that needed some restoration, some nourishing, some soothing, some forgiveness. And we smooth that energy out. We give it that love, we give it that healing, and we keep moving down that line. And we move back until we find ancestors that are cycle breakers as well. And they become our inner mothers that come up through that lineage and help us to heal. They help us to find that inner forgiveness and they find that strength of our lineage. And they come up and they giving that love and nourishment to everybody along that line as well. We've all got that within us. We've all got these beloved ancestors within our lines. Doesn't matter how far back you need to go, they will be there. And there is an energetic line of love that we can lean into for this energetic support and bring that through on our healing journey. And then we've got that space within us to pass that healing down to our lineage moving forward. That's to our children. So what comes from us as the mother line from now on has been healed, has been soothed, has had that space of forgiveness, held that for us. And we move that through our nervous system regulation practices, and we move this through rituals and mantras and our new processes that we're building, our rituals and rhythms that we're building as we set up this healing path and move forward on our new line. So we need to look at our nervous systems that patterns that have been passed down. We need to look at cultural and generational suppression of feminine energy has led to suppressed rage, which needs an outlet of explosion. So we need to consider all of these things. So healing practices and rituals that we weave this into, we look at once we've done that generational lineage healing, we get energetic downloads or imprints that might be a little saying or a little sentence that just hits in the right spot. And that can be an anchor point for a little mantra that you might say when you're doing your morning breath work or your evening breath work, whenever that fits for your individual timeline of ritual healing, to move that with your breath and allowing our breath somatically, which means moving that energy through our physical body, leading with your body first, using your somatics within your body to move that breath through every cell in your body and anchor that new energy within you. So we get those little insights from doing that generational lineage healing. Activating your body. So this is going to depend, like this is like cold water immersion and using things like that for activations, but it's going to really depend on where you are within your nervous system healing journey to whether that's at the right space for you. So that's a whole nother story about whether cold water immersion is the right thing for you and where you're at. Because if you're in a high cortisol state and you throw yourself into a high stress position physiologically for your body, like cold water immersion, it's only going to increase your cortisol. So it's not the best way to heal if you are already high cortisol. But if your cortisol's bottomed out, then something like cold water immersion can be something that activates a stress response if your body is not able to produce that stress on its own. But that's a whole different story. I'd love you to invite me to have a conversation with you if that's something that you're interested in talking about. Come and talk to me about it because it's very individualized. But there's different rituals that we can do Sound release is another one. I spoke last week about music, and using like rageful music is a great way that I love to use to express feeling and what's moving through you. Because these feelings that you've got doesn't have to be about anybody else. It can be that repressed patterning or stories that's been living within you since childhood and beyond. And you're giving it an outlet. Is the more we express and feel those feelings is the best way to move it out of you. So giving yourself an outlet for these things isn't going to be coming through sound release, muscle movement. So that's like why I love lifting weights and doing boxing, things like that, because it's a movement, it's expression. But you can also get it out through things like dance. You can get it out through just feeling your body. Okay. But just to giving your space a space to be able to release is so important. Connecting in with your ancestors through practices like the generational lineage healing, being guided through our sessions is a really great way to connect with that and understand the patterning and where you've come from energetically. But we can also carry that through for yourself. You can do that through journaling, asking questions in meditation, and leaning into what comes through for you. And then we support that through vibrational medicine like flower essences that help us to shift emotions that are ready to be released. Um, Paying attention to your subconscious patterns, whether that's what's coming through in your dreams, whatever the feelings are, is what's being expressed through your subconscious and honoring your mother line. So once we understand where our mothers have come from, what have been passed down to them, we can have a lot of a deeper forgiveness for what has been passed on to us because we're all just doing the best that we can with what we've been given. And we're all just working to reclaim our own inner peace and our own stories and our own motherhoods. And we're all learning. And I think that no mother has to do all of the generational healing in one generation. That's impossible. So please do not put that expectation on yourself. But I think that through every generation, there has been cycle breakers and they've been changing little bits by little bits by little bits every time. When we look back into our generational healings, when we sit with that energetically and we feel energetically their stories that have been passed down, we can feel the shift through each different generation. And we can see how the women have tried and broken patterns and changed the way things that were done. There's still work to be done. There always is. So don't put so much pressure on yourself to have it all figured out and have it all perfect. We don't need that pressure. But what we need to do is align ourselves with awareness, align ourselves with our inner mother who we invoke within to help guide us and nurture the inner child within us and give us what we need to feel that love and connection and nurturing while we are rewiring and helping and teaching ourselves to feel safe. And that's a lot of my method when I'm working with women is guiding them back to feel safe in their bodies. And yes, at the same time, that is helping them to balance their hormones, to help optimize their guts and their livers, to do all of the detox work that they're doing to release and let go, because so much of it is about teaching women or holding that space for women really that they're safe to let go and they don't have to hold it all anymore. And being that space holder, this is where the priestess energy comes in, being that space holder for the women to find safety and release. And when we do the Priestess of Motherhood mentorship, my goal is to teach you to be that priestess so that you can hold that energy for yourself moving forward, for your children to be their own advocates and stand up and follow their own path and honor their own energy, their own intuition, and carry that energy through. So that's my ultimate goal there. So yeah, you get to be that alchemist of your bloodline. You are the priestess, you are the generational cycle breaker. And we cannot ignore our rage. We cannot ignore the bubbling undercurrent of what has been suppressed. through the feminine lineage, through trauma, through cultural repressions. All of these things need space to transmute, to change, for you to be activated and renewed. So this is the work we do within the Priestess of Motherhood mentorship. Um, we're not about bypassing any emotions. We allow space and we go at a pace that feels safe. We're not rushing. We are holding and we are moving things that are ready to be moved. And if they're not ready to move, we hold them and give you the nourishment until they do. So it's all about teaching you that you're worthy of nourishment. It's safe to feel nourished. It's safe to feel slow. It's safe to feel rested. So it's not surface level support. It is deep relationship building within yourself, connecting back within your inner priestess. And it's like that soul initiation to bring yourself back into your body. So if you feel drawn to this type of work at all, I invite you to reach out to me, send me a message on Instagram, or simply jump onto my website and book yourself in for a connection call. Okay, because this is how we can do that work. It's a 6-month mentorship program where we deep dive into 90-minute consults every fortnight. And we move up through the levels of energetic connection from our base all the way up through to our crown. And we move through our body systems as we do that. We get our gut on board and optimized. We get our liver functioning well. We get our hormones aligned. We understand the wisdom of the feminine body and our cycles and connect back into our bodies and what our body needs to feel nourished. All of that happens because we are not just a physiological being, but we're not just an energetic being either. We are all of it. And we need to treat ourselves holistically if we're going to move through this space and to hold ourselves as that priestess. So reach out if you want to know more. If you've loved this podcast, I invite you to share it with a friend or leave a comment in the podcast app or on my Instagram and let me know that you're enjoying this content. If you have any questions, please reach out because I'm here to support. But lots of love to you. I hope you have a wonderful day.